What if I told you one of the biggest stumbling blocks to your success is you? It's true. Research shows over 80% of us unknowingly engage in habits proven to be damaging to our own success. I'm self-leadership and success expert Scott Mounts, and in this course, you'll learn the 8 most common ways you might be blocking or derailing your own success and how to overcome each. You sabotage your success in 3 primary categories. When you lose perspective, when you make unnecessary mistakes in the process of pursuing success, and when you struggle to persevere in the face of setbacks. All ways you get in your own way. We'll tear all these self-imposed barriers down to build you up to greater achievement. So let's dive right into the course, 8 ways you block your success so that you could stop doing just that. See you there. Unleashing success starts with realizing how successful you already are. Success goes beyond your salary, job title, or goals achieved, and nothing wrong with any of that, of course. But success has a broader definition than you might realize. In fact, write down the 6 questions of hidden success that follow. If you can answer yes to any of them, you're more successful than you think. Number 1, do you consistently live your values? Your values influence how you act, exemplifying who you are. Are your daily actions consistent with your values and the kind of person you want to be? For example, if a core value is kindness, are you consistently kind? Intentionally living your values shows you're centered and discipline, both forms of success. And doing so is no small feat. Only half of us can clearly articulate our values, let alone intentionally live them. Number 2, are you working on your life versus just in it? Now, nothing wrong with working in your life, navigating the daily routine, but greater success comes from working on your life too. For example, take the time to envision what you really want to do with your life and spot unhelpful patterns and habits you've fallen into. It's about stepping back, making changes, and taking action to get to a better place. Next, do you feel abundance even in the absence of? Meaning, even when you don't have everything you want, focus on what you do have. It's easy to get caught up feeling like enough is never enough, always looking to the next thing, the next rung of the ladder to climb. But the ability to consistently show gratitude for all you have and have accomplished versus always needing more is a key trait of the most successful people. Number 4, do you have a continuous improvement mindset? Success isn't just achieving that desired end state. It's also making progress along the way, learning from mistakes and adapting, changing, and growing. Success is attracted to forward movement and repelled by status quo. Next up, number 5. Are you doing the hard work so you're ready when opportunities arise? You stay motivated to put in the work it takes to succeed by falling in love with the process of doing that work. Not easy, as the work can be boring or repetitive at times and feel far removed from success. But it's that little stuff that pays off in big moments. To illustrate, people often ask me about becoming a professional speaker, saying, I'd love to get paid to talk from stage for an hour. But they don't realize that to do so requires hours of repetitive rehearsal and intensive research to uncover insights worth getting paid to talk about. It's a process. Point is, fall in love with your process of hard work so you're ready when opportunity strikes. Finally, number 6, are you achieving your definition of success, not someone else's? One of life's tragedies is when people say they don't feel successful relative to someone else's definition of success, not their own. For example, a friend of mine felt like a failure for not getting a promotion she wanted. But when pushed to define what success really meant to her, it wasn't that promotion at all. She'd fallen into the trap of, this is what I'm supposed to want. She realized success to her was just having a team that loved working for her, something she could achieve in any role. When you define what success means to you, you might discover how successful you already are. So consider these 6 questions and reveal a more successful you. Ever experience imposter syndrome? Feeling like you haven't earned what you've achieved, that you'll be found out as a fraud, or that everyone knows what they're doing, but you? It directly blocks success because it makes you downplay your accomplishments and worth, undermine your expertise or experience, or doubt what you can achieve. We'll get to how to address it, but first know it's important to recognize when it's something deeper than imposter syndrome at work. It could be that it's not about you, but about the environment you work in that's triggering what you're feeling. It might be a workplace with deep biases that doesn't value diversity, inclusion, and belongingness. Solutions for that lie in a different course. Start by assessing what's driving your imposter feelings, you or your environment. Feelings of imposter syndrome fall on a scale from beneficial to unhelpful to debilitating. I'll explain. If you're experiencing a bit of self-doubt, it can actually be beneficial, driving you to improve and validate your competence through achievement. If you acknowledge what you don't know, it can lead to learning and growth. But that touch of self-doubt can quickly lead to unhelpful outcomes like a lack of self-confidence and self-belief, fear of failure, risk avoidance, and perfectionism because you don't want to be found out. Left unchecked, it can spiral into debilitating anxiety, depression, or isolation. And Stanford research shows people experiencing imposter syndrome often feel like they're the only ones experiencing it. If you suspect your imposter syndrome has become something debilitating, it's important you get the help you need. I'm going to focus on the middle of the scale, preventing imposter syndrome from producing unhelpful outcomes. Do so by following these 4 strategies. Number 1, focus on facts. What facts support that you deserve to be where you are? What hard work did you put in to get there? Don't let your self-skepticism cloud the truth. Pause this video now and write down one thing that you should give yourself more credit for. 2, share your feelings and failures. Share your imposter feelings with people you trust. Let them share what they see in you. It builds your support system. Share your failures too, to get help putting those failures into proper perspective. Next, cultivate self-compassion. What you say to yourself impacts how you see yourself. How would you support a friend who keeps beating himself up? Talk to yourself that way, out loud, using your name, not I. For example, I wouldn't say to myself, I really screwed that up. I'd say, Scott, There are some things to learn from and improve upon here. Using your name makes it feel like you're talking to someone else, which instinctively encourages you to be kinder to that other person. Finally, own your accomplishments. Instead of feeling unworthy of praise or attention, acknowledge when you've succeeded and celebrate. Keep a smile file, a folder with compliments you've gotten, and pay attention to how you react when you're given a compliment. Don't dismiss, embrace. So don't let imposter syndrome impose on your success. Follow these strategies and you won't. There's a time to think, to act, to reflect, and to move forward. Overthinking causes you to, spend too much time thinking, take too little action, and turns helpful reflection into debilitating worry. It moves you backward, not forward, and negatively impacts how you view the past, present, and future. That's why that timetable exercise is so powerful for helping you overcome overthinking. Here's how it works. Create a 3x4 table like this. In the left column, label the rows past, present, and future, like so. Label the next column over instances of overthinking, and the right column, new habits. Pause this video and create the table. I'll wait. First, the past row. In the instances of overthinking column, write down past events or decisions you keep playing in your head repeatedly, even though you can't do anything about them anymore, like that bad meeting you had. Include what you specifically keep beating yourself up for, too, like something you said in that meeting. Getting over overthinking starts with self-awareness of when you're doing it. In the new habits column, write down these empowering habits to commit to instead. Let the past go. Not easy, I know. To help, ask yourself why it's so important to let go. Say your answer out loud. For example, I must let it go that I had a bad meeting. It's causing me to be paranoid about how my boss feels about me. Next, practice self-compassion, being kinder to yourself about past actions. Finally here, revisit decisions only when you have new information, which is self-explanatory. Now, the present row. In the instances of overthinking column, write down where you're currently stuck, continually analyzing but not taking action, like, should I change jobs? Also write down instances where you worry about what others think of you, like when giving presentations, for example. In the new habits column, write down these empowering habits to establish instead. Evaluate the real impact of being wrong. We overthink because we fear being wrong. When you're stuck in inaction, ask what the realistic cost of being wrong is. Lowering the stakes raises your ability to get mentally unstuck. Next, remember that overthinking and problem solving aren't the same thing. Constantly revisiting scenarios, it feels like you're problem solving, doing something useful, but you're just spinning. Recognize when you're overthinking. Realize it's not problem solving and move forward. Last here, compare only to yourself. When you worry about what others think, you're really worrying about how you're comparing to their expectation of you. But the only comparison that matters is to who you were yesterday and whether or not you're becoming a better version of yourself. Stay focused on that. Finally, the future row. In the instances of overthinking column, write down things about the future you're worrying too much about. In the new habits column, write down these habits to exchange for those worries. Replace what if with we'll see. Overthinkers keep asking themselves what if, which can't be answered. Instead, switch what if to we'll see, which moves you past worry towards acceptance of what you can't control. Next, stop catastrophizing. It's hard not to think a lot about terrible outcomes you're imagining, but it is just your imagination. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that this bad outcome will actually happen? Pause this video now, complete the timetable, and reflect on your new habits. Congratulations! You're ready to move forward with empowering habits and change the stories you tell yourself about the past, present, and future. Goodbye overthinking. Hello overachieving. Have you ever stopped to consider how your assumptions shape your actions, behaviors, and your life? The impact is profound. The wrong assumptions can derail dreams, self-imposed limits, and stop progress in its tracks. Like when you assume you'll never get that promotion or that nobody would read what you have to say if you wrote a book. Assumptions are taken as fact, become beliefs, and turn into actions. They can quietly run your life. So, if you want to stop blocking your success, you must challenge your assumptions. Here are 6 ways to do so. First, embrace uncertainty. Doing so stops you from making unhelpful assumptions to begin with. When we don't know how something will turn out, we tend to fill in the blanks with often unhelpful assumptions. Become more comfortable with uncertainty. You won't feel the need to make assumptions. A Buddhist chaplain taught me how to handle uncertainty with the acronym OAR, O-A-R. Here's what it stands for. O, observe uncertainty's presence. Acknowledge it. Don't overreact to it by panicking or making unhelpful assumptions. A, accept that you don't know everything in the face of uncertainty, but accelerate your learning. Ask questions. Get opinions and gather data to understand more about the uncertain situation. Accelerating your learning quickly helps clear away the fog that obscures what you should do next, keeping you from being paralyzed into inaction. Finally, R, realize uncertainty has benefits, like unleashing creativity and resilience. Number 2, think like a science teacher. Assumptions are hypotheses. In science, hypotheses are either accepted or dismissed with proof. Be mindful of assumptions you're making and ask yourself if those assumptions have actually been proven. Ask, why do I believe this assumption is true? What proof do I have? Number 3, watch your language. When you think and speak in absolutes, you foster inaccurate assumptions. Stop and pause when you catch yourself using words and phrases like never, always, all of, and none of. For example, imagine saying, that will never happen, or we always fail when we try to achieve that. By being so absolute, you can't help but make assumptions, often misguided ones. 4, force fresh perspective. It's easy to fall into a pattern of operating with the same assumptions repeatedly when you continually see things from one perspective. Instead, break free from that and bring in fresh points of view. Bring outsiders into a brainstorming session. Bring in people successful in your field and pick their brains. Whatever the source, create some tension with the status quo. Number 5, remember the stakeholders. Think of an assumption you're making that's impacting others. To test its validity, go talk to those stakeholders and find out how they view the assumptions you're making. For example, would the product supply team agree that there's enough capacity to fully support your new product launch? Would R&D agree they can bring that innovation to market in time? You get the idea. Don't make it an assumption in a vacuum. Enroll those affected by it. Finally, number 6, double-click on your biggest assumptions. Not all assumptions are created equal. Identify the 1 or 2 most critical assumptions you're making and give extra thought to challenging them. For example, if you're assuming, I'll never get a job in that industry I'm interested in, that can affect your entire life. It's worth focusing extra effort on challenging such pivotal assumptions. Don't let assumptions hold you back. Challenge them vigorously to move forward. How's this for ironic? Pursuing perfection blocks you from achieving success. Frustration, disappointment, and exhaustion results instead. The perfectionism pyramid breaks this habit. It has 3 sections: awareness, standards you set, and where to focus. Let's go through each. First, acknowledge the full cost of perfectionism. Perfectionism keeps you from spending your time in far more valuable ways, and that's not all. Perfectionists tend to judge and criticize not only themselves, but those around them too. The more they see their own flaws in others, the more they pick at them. The criticism and judging pushes people away and isolates the perfectionists, further increasing their "I'm not good enough" belief, a vicious cycle. Break this cycle by acknowledging the full impact of your perfectionism. Next, be aware of should, meaning avoid using this word. To illustrate, listen closely. I should go over this again to make sure it's 100% right. This should be a lot better than it is right now. I should have done this instead of that. The very nature of the word fosters overthinking and attempts to control everything. Not helpful. Instead of saying should, give yourself a reason to move on, like, if I just finish this, I can go to the movies. Now, standards. It's important to get good at good enough. I'll explain. Chances are nobody's holding you to the same standards you're holding yourself to. There's nothing wrong with high standards, of course. That's healthy. The problem arises when you view success as all or nothing all the time. Learning to say good enough can be liberating. It also helps you to calibrate your standards with colleagues by sharing your early work. You might find it's already plenty good enough. Next, set a standard of self-acceptance. In other words, accept yourself before you wreck yourself. A friend of mine was a prisoner to her perfectionist tendencies, constantly trying to avoid any rejection, disappointment, or criticism. She broke free only when she learned to practice self-acceptance and self-appreciation. She learned to forgive herself. She gained the courage to be imperfect, like we're all wired to be, and to live with vulnerability. Now, where to focus? Quite simply, focus on maximizing impact, not achieving perfection. Recognize when your efforts are at a point of diminishing returns and move on. If you're honest with yourself, you'll spot when your incremental efforts are no longer having an impact. Accept that sometimes just being done is a worthy goal. Pause this video now and write down one thing you've been laboring at that you know it's time to move on from. By the way, don't exaggerate the impact of not achieving perfection. Ask yourself, what's the realistic cost of imperfection here? Is even the worst case really that bad? Humorist Mark Twain said, "I've suffered a great many catastrophes in my life. Most of them never happened." Finally, focus on process, not outcome. Perfectionists focus on the outcome. Will it be perfect or not? Missing the richness of the process, the opportunities to learn and grow along the way. A friend shared that his perfectionism kept him from learning how to do things he was interested in because he couldn't be perfect at them right away. He wanted to learn to play the guitar, but because he couldn't quickly perfect the art, he abandoned it. His perfectionism robbed him of the process of practicing, learning incrementally, and improving. Learn to fall in love with the process of improvement, not perfection. So, practice each level of the perfectionism pyramid, and success goes to another level. Studies show we lose 55 productive days a year to procrastination. It doesn't block success, it obliterates it. Follow the 5-step path through procrastination to move forward. Let's go one step at a time. Step 1. Ask, why am I procrastinating? Maybe the task bores you, you don't like doing it, or you're afraid of failing at it. Find a positive to offset the negative. Bored? Make it more interesting. Don't like the task? Tie a reward to finishing it. Indifferent? Clarify your goals and find the meaning behind the task. Step 2. Ask, why must I get this task done? Consider the pain of not completing the task. If there isn't any, by the way, consider eliminating the task altogether. And consider the benefits of completing the task. Are you underestimating the importance of doing so, or how good it will feel to finish? Step 3. Recognize the power of just getting started. Simply taking that first step to get started triggers what's known as the Zeigarnik effect. Just by starting a task, you're driven to finish it because interrupted, uncompleted tasks nag at us. That's why TV shows often end their season with a cliffhanger episode. The narrative is interrupted and incomplete, but your brain wants a conclusion, so you hungrily tune in next season. Starting a task also cuts off worrying about how unpleasant the task will be. Ever started something and wound up telling yourself, this isn't so bad? Step 4. Get started. Time for action, but it can still be hard to get going. Start by forgiving yourself for not starting yet. Doing so eases guilt, which causes further procrastination as you want to avoid the uncomfortable feeling of confronting your utter lack of progress. And don't fall into the trap of waiting for the magic, I feel like it moment. Odds are, it won't come. Or count on your willpower to kick in and get you going. Studies show willpower is consistently overestimated, while how quickly it's depleted is underestimated. Nor should you convince yourself, I'll wait. I work better under pressure. Actually, research shows the opposite. People under stress make more errors. To get going, start with extremes. Break the task into a series of smaller steps from easiest to hardest. Then, start on either end. Getting the stressful, hardest parts done first allows you to be more present with each of the tasks thereafter, versus having that toughest task gnawing at you in the back of your mind. Your energy is highest at the start as well, increasing the likelihood you'll blast through the tough task. Starting with the easiest task feeds into your natural desire for instant gratification and can get momentum going. Finally, step 5. Stay on track. Don't count on self-imposed deadlines here. Behavioral science shows it's far more effective to set deadlines externally, like with your boss or a friend. It's also key here to avoid device distractions and busy work, mindless work unrelated to the task at hand that gives you the illusion real work is being done. For example, you have to prepare for a big meeting tomorrow, but you soon find yourself rearranging the apps on your phone. We've all done it. The key is to catch this distracted behavior, evaluate each task you're engaging in, and then redirect your effort to the actual work that will get you back on course. Having everything you need to complete the task in front of you can also help keep you from straying. 5 steps, 1 path, and procrastination is over. I bet you can't wait to get started. Why is feeling and acting like a victim so harmful? Because the underlying assumption when you do is, I'm powerless, which of course you aren't. It's a form of learned helplessness that helps no one, least of all, you. For example, when you're playing the victim, you place blame elsewhere versus taking responsibility. You feel like people are out to get you. You take slights as major offenses. You're overly negative and you waste tremendous time and energy stuck in a mindset of, it's not fair. I've been there. You wear people out, talking about your thing, making it everything, even though we all have our thing. To direct yourself away from this success-blocking behavior, follow a VMAP, a victim mentality avoidance plan. It guides you in 5 ways to vanquish victim mentality. Write them down, refer to them when you feel your victim mentality arising, then redirect yourself. Number 1, don't react, act. When you're playing the victim, you're in reactive mode, responding negatively to your circumstances, to things that happen to you. The tricky part is it can feel comforting as you feel validated and free from having to take action because you believe you're powerless after all. Instead, try this. The next time you're in an unfavorable situation, ask yourself, do I just want things to change? Or do I want to change things? Just wanting things to change is victim mentality. Changing things is an action-oriented way of taking responsibility to create a better outcome. For example, say the culture at work is toxic with backstabbing and finger-pointing the norm. You could keep reacting to the culture with anger, frustrated that it continues and wishing it would change, or you can do something to change it, like call a team meeting to intervene. Number 2, stop thinking, why me? Start thinking, why not me? This one is very simple. It's about seeing the possibility in adversity versus the punishment. Next, look for what's right, not how you were wronged. This is about finding peace, not pain, in hardship. Rather than focusing on all the injustices of your situation, instead, extend forgiveness and feel gratitude for all that's going right in your life. Number 4, give your rescuers resolve. Here's what I mean. Those trapped in a victim mentality often have a core group of rescuers they turn to for sympathy. The well-meaning audience often feeds the victim mentality by showing pity and joining in on the negativity in an attempt to make the victim feel better. Be aware of who you turn to in such times. It might be your partner or coworkers, for instance. Then, tell those people you're working on not playing the victim and ask them not to play into that mentality when you come looking for a sympathetic ear. This increases their resolve to not help in that unhelpful way. Now, this can be a difficult step because it requires brutal self-honesty and vulnerability. Do it anyways. Finally, number 5, pinpoint your part in it. When something happens for which you feel victimized, before you start the blame game, ask yourself, what was my role in this? How might I have contributed? When reacting to the situation at hand, instead of using the words you or they, use I. Own your part of the circumstance. To illustrate, say you get into a big argument with a coworker. You could avoid them thereafter, harboring resentment, or ask yourself what you did to contribute to the argument and how you might move things forward from there. So, make your victim mentality a victim of your refusal to give in to it. There may be no more difficult task required for success than trying to persevere in the face of setbacks. But you can recast setbacks with the 4 lenses of resilience, 4 ways to reframe how you look at hardships and persevere. Let's go through each. First, the agreeable adversity lens. While adversity is challenging, of course, and can cause you to panic or catastrophize about all the bad things that can happen, there's always a productive element to it. Find the agreeable adversity by asking, what can I learn from this setback? How will I grow? Think of it this way. Adversity doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, so you can learn and grow from it. For example, when COVID first hit and live events stopped happening, it was hard for me as a keynote speaker who depended on live events not to panic. But I chose to see the setback as happening for me, to force me to learn how to present virtually, which is a different skill set. I learned a lot in so doing, and thus expanded my portfolio of speaking services I could provide to the world. I want you to think about a tough setback you went through recently. Pause this video right now and write down 2 things you learned from that experience. Then come on back. I'll wait. Next, the emergence lens. Sometimes adversity closes off options for you. It's painful in the moment, but then something amazing happens. As you're wading through the fog of, well, what now? Your senses sharpen in search of alternative opportunities. Suddenly the fog clears and a new opportunity, previously obscured because your attention was elsewhere, emerges and comes into focus. For example, when my opportunity to write for a major magazine dried up, something new emerged. The chance for me to publish a weekly newsletter for my followers and to create courses for you, LinkedIn learners. It's happened so many times in my life that I now keep this near my desk as a reminder that when a door closes, a window opens. Next up, the gratefulness lens. In the face of setbacks or change, you're instinctively drawn to what you've lost, like your forward momentum, your sense of comfort, or even parts of your identity. Resist this natural temptation and instead focus on what you still have. like your values, family and friends, or the good parts of your job. You can also apply the distance principle, which says the distance between how far you've come on something minus the misstep. And note it's called a misstep, not a misleap, for a reason. You likely didn't go as far backward as you think. That remaining distance, that progress, is still something to be proud of. Finally, the history lens. Setbacks cause us to focus on the pain we feel in that moment. But if you step back and look at adversity in your past, odds are you gain something valuable from that experience, even if you can only see that now. I guarantee that some of your greatest accomplishments required overcoming obstacles. I bet there are times when you were convinced you'd failed, but in retrospect, you see you didn't fail. You just hadn't succeeded yet. Don't let setbacks rob your memory bank of instances when you persevered. Instead, draw on those memories for perspective and strength. So, look at setbacks through these 4 lenses, and in the center, you can look forward to greater perseverance and success. It's so hard to achieve success. Why make it even harder with unhelpful thoughts and actions? Now you can stop unintentionally blocking success and start intentionally allowing yourself to succeed with better perspective, healthier perceptions, smarter in-process approaches for success, and through greater perseverance. The truth is, getting out of your own way will put you well on your way to even greater success. So get going. By the way, check out all my courses on LinkedIn Learning and visit scottmounts.com to learn about my keynotes, workshops, and books.